This is Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I'll talk about some old school beers that maybe you've forgotten about, some new beers that have the potential to be a classic. I'll also talk to various people around the beer world and get their stories all about beer. That's Beer in Front, and it's coming up now. Welcome to the November 21st edition, episode 187 of Beer in Front. I'm your host, Dave Zalatoris, and Beer in Front is a proud Odd Pods Media Network member. On this episode, I'll discuss Metropolitan closing in Chicago, and I'll have one of their beers. I want to thank everyone who listens and watches the videos on YouTube and other social media channels. If you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/beerinfront for more info. It's Thanksgiving week. If you're a long-time listener, I hope your fucking stuffing is not dry. Ruby is out of town this week visiting family, so I'll be home with Moira Rose and have my mom over for Thanksgiving. I'm not going all out this year because there's only a couple of us. I'm going to sous vide some steaks. I will miss the sides and desserts. So if anyone has any extra spare stuffing laying around, you know how to get a hold of me. I mentioned in the intro that if you're a longtime listener about your stuffing, I realized after I recorded that some people might not be longtime listeners. So at the end of the show, if you haven't heard my grandmother's stuffing story, listen all the way to the end after the closing credits, and I will tell you my grandmother's stuffing story. In beer news, it's Thanksgiving week, which means people will be lined up to grab Goose Island's Bourbon County brand stout all over Chicagoland. I'm not one of those people. For the past couple of years, bottles can be had 50 to 75% off if you wait a few months, so I think I could hold out. Twisted Tea is going to be sold cheaply on the black market in the Memphis area. 32,000 cases. That's 32,000 cases, which is around 18 truckloads of Twisted Tea went missing from a warehouse recently. How the hell do you steal 18 truckloads of Twisted Tea? This puts the Lufthansa heist from Goodfellas to shame. If you're the security guard, you have one job. I can imagine a Memphis version of Paulie Walnuts and Silvio orchestrating this caper and trying to sell Twisted Tea at the Bada Bing. Like, hey, Tone, we got some Twisted Tea. Why do you have that many cases? Well, there's antioxidants in tea, Tone. And Silvio just selling it at the Bada Bing. How do you steal that much product? A group of former Anchor Brewing employees have formed a cooperative and raised over $150,000. They're going to focus on assets and intellectual property from Sapporo, which shut down the iconic brewery earlier this year. Brooklyn Brewery and Four Roses have come out with the 5th edition of Brooklyn Black Ops. This is a 12% Russian Imperial Stout aged in Four Roses bourbon barrels. I've enjoyed past versions of this. 4-packs retail for about $20, so it has a reasonable price point compared to some of the other barrel-aged stouts that are out there. Voodoo Ranger's Imperial IPA is now the #1 craft beer in dollar sales at convenience stores, overtaking Blue Moon. Sam Adams Seasonals have gone up now to #2 in sales at grocery stores. I just hope they don't store that stuff in Memphis like the Twisted Tea. Goose Island and More Brewing, they're teaming up for a new barley wine that's going to be double barrel aged. The new beer will be called Tusk and Grain. Good news on the labor front. The Teamsters and AB InBev have reached a tentative settlement to restore health benefits for active and current workers and end the two-tiered healthcare plans. Church Street Brewing out of Itasca, Illinois, is opening Barley House, where you could dine while having some great beer. They had a soft open this week, so look out for that. Sad news out of Chicago. Metropolitan Brewing is closing its doors on December 17th. They filed for Chapter 11 last month, but cited a rent dispute that has been going on now for years, and low sales in the retail market is reasons for this. The owners claim that the landlord came into the brewery while they were doing some renovations and hurried them into signing a lease with an extra 9,000 square feet of space, which they did. They signed this without their attorney present. I'm not going to dispute that one bit, but something just is never sat right with me while reading this story over the past couple of years. Even if you didn't have your attorney present, no one looked at the lease's square footage and monthly rent before signing and said, this is not what we agreed upon earlier? And after paying this for a few years now in 2019, before the pandemic, you discover this discrepancy and then stop paying rent altogether? No one said this rent sure is much higher than we agreed to. The footage, and I'm assuming the rent, is more than a third higher than what, they claim they agreed upon before they signed this lease. They stopped paying the rent altogether, saying they've been overpaying. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I can't see how just not paying your rent is going to end up well. I'm not saying the landlord is an angel by any stretch, but I'm having difficulty buying the brewery story in this. They were either extremely naive or had poor representation in the whole affair. And it's a shame. They put out some great beers. The facility was second to none in the Chicagoland area. If you're in the area in the next month, you got to stop by, pick up some beer before they close for good. They had a statement on social media saying they have no current plans to relocate or revive the brand. And I don't know what's going to go into the spot. I mean, it's a great location overlooking the Chicago River, but I can't see for like the landlord how you're going to fill this space. I mean, they still haven't put anything into the Ballast Point location that closed down. I think it was the West Loop. They closed that down after the pandemic. That's another huge facility brewery that's been open. So I don't know what's going to go into the old Metropolitan.
Hi, I'm Tina Jaramillo.
And I'm Hillary Doherty.
And we host the Muck Podcast, where we discuss the dark and sometimes weird true stories in American politics.
Hey, Tina, did you know that Elvis crashed the Nixon White House for the sole purpose of getting a DEA badge? And it worked?
What? Or how a gun control advocate senator out of California engaged in gun trafficking with notorious gang leader Shrimp Boy?
Shrimp Boy, I remember him. Okay, so, we cover all of that and more from maladies, madness, mischief, and murder in U.S. politics.
And we also host a bi-weekly interview segment called Lil Muck.
We interview politicians, journalists, activists, and others who share their experiences in politics.
Find the Muck Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and check us out on social media at the Muck Podcast.
All right, the beer that's in front of me is from Metropolitan. This was their flagship, Krankshaft. It's a Kolsch beer, checks in at 5% alcohol, 22 IBUs. Untapped only gave this an average rating of 3.5 bottle caps, but over on Beer Advocate, it was rated very good at 85. I've always enjoyed this, so this will probably be the last time I get to have a Krankshaft. So let's bust open this can. Krankshaft has a nice, beautiful, pale straw color. Good foam on here. Really smells nice. It just smells like a delicious old school beer. They use a little wheat in this So I think that's why it's a little bit lighter and a little hazier than normal, but it looks and smells phenomenal. Yeah, that's really good. This is something you could drink this, or you could in the past, drink this all day. It's just a phenomenal beer. It's true to the style. It's just something that you could have every day. It's nice and light. Good hop finish here. Good malt taste to this. Everything about this is just rock solid. Yeah, it just tastes like an old school beer should. Like, this is something, hopefully Metro comes back in another life or another, brewery of some kind, because I'd love to see this beer again. It's a delicious beer. If you're in the Chicago area and you get a chance to head over there, maybe they still have this on tap, or, maybe a grocery store will still carry it, but definitely pick you up some Krankshaft. All right, I'm going to try something a little different right now. I was at my grocery store, Mariano's, and they had in the ready-to-drink cocktail section a Grey Goose Classic Martini cocktail. This is made by Grey Goose. It's in a Grey Goose bottle, smaller bottle. It's a 375 milliliter bottle. This is Grey Goose vodka blended with French vermouth. I do love a good vodka martini, and they had this on sale. It's normally $22.99. They had this $9 off. So for $13.99, it's in the cart. Now, it says it makes 4 to 5 martinis. Probably going to be about 3, but let's bust open this Grey Goose Classic Martini cocktail and try this out. I didn't have it in a cocktail shaker, doing shaken, not stirred. So I'm just having this over one of those nice big giant ice cubes. Smells really good. Smells like just your classic vodka martini. I guess I should say the color. The color is clear. But no, it really smells nice. If you're a martini drinker, I think the smell is pretty good. It's not bad. Pretty smooth. I think I would probably add a little more vermouth if I were to make a martini at home. But it's definitely drinkable for the price point. I mean, if you get it on sale for $14 in the cart, 23, I don't know. I mean, it's not bad. I guess if you're like me, you like martinis, but you don't want to have giant bottles of vodka and vermouth laying around the house all the time. This would be something that would, satisfy your desire for a quick martini without having all these bottles of booze laying around. So if you see the Grey Goose Classic Martini cocktail, you could do a lot worse. It's really not bad. I would make mine a little different, but I think definitely this is drinkable. A couple of months ago, I mentioned that I'll be branching out and occasionally doing different shows unrelated to beer. It seems like those shows do a lot better. The one that I did, it was almost 2 years now on Stax Records, that still has legs, and that's still one of my top downloaded episodes month to month. So I'm going to branch out and do a couple different things. I talked about a while ago that I'm going to do a show on the Oakland A's, and there was some news last week in regards to that. So I'm going to finish writing and record that episode this week. I have another episode on Tom Petty. That's going to come out probably earlier next year. But I'm going to branch out and do some different things unrelated to beer. The beer podcast is not going anywhere. It just might not come out every week in the near future. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Beer in Front. I thank you very much for listening. If you want to get a hold of me, you could email me, dave@beerinfront.com. You could find me on all the social media channels at Beer in Front. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday, so I hope you enjoy it with your families, and I'll talk to you down the road on Beer in Front. And remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite holiday of the year. As a child growing up, my parents were divorced. Some years I went to this parent, some years I went to that parent. you know how it goes. But when I stayed home with my mom, we would have Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house. And every year she would do the whole thing, the turkey, the stuffing, sweet potatoes, you name it. My grandmother did it, went all out. Every year, never failed. She's in the kitchen making this, and my grandmother's like, the fucking stuffing is too dry. It never was. The stuffing was always great. It wasn't, I'm sure it wasn't homemade. It was probably stovetop, or Dominic's was the grocery store we went to back then. But the stuffing was always great. But every year, without fail, the fucking stuffing is too dry. And we would like laugh at her. And of course, then, me, I'm a ball buster. So she would ask how the stuffing was. Oh, it's really fucking dry, Nana. I don't know what to tell you. And then she would get mad. But the stuffing was never dry. So wherever you're spending your Thanksgiving holiday, I hope your fucking stuffing is nice and moist.